hello everyone. I've got the beautiful Riya and Loveguard here with me, and I've given you, Riya, a bit of an introduction already, but I would love for you to fill in the gaps and tell us more about you. You are so fascinating to me and what you do, and I know my audience is going to love all the things that you will bring with you around galactics and starseeds and light language. How did you get here?
Oh, wow.
And welcome.
Welcome and thank you so much for the invite. Well, as for many of us, waking up to the world of metaphysics, to the world of spirituality, it's not always a smooth awakening. For me, it was a very rude awakening. Started very softly back in um, like mid 2015 when I started dabbling into meditation and manifestation. However, as I was opening my consciousness, what was happening was I was simply trying to run away from stress. I was running a very stressful business, very 3D, real estate investing, education on investing and running online businesses. And I had employees, I had investors, and it was just a lot of stress. So I was trying to manage my stress levels down with meditation. And in 2019, my just before COVID hit and took my business away, and where the whole house of cards fell down like a domino, and we've lost literally everything, including our very identity. Um, well, I was open-minded enough that my soul family, the Acturians, came to me in a dream. I was actually running a webinar I lived in Australia like you do at the moment, and I was running a webinar for Polish audience. So I was awake in the middle of the night. I think we finished at something like 3:30, and I couldn't sleep. So I went into this weird state, which wasn't sleep, nor was it being awake. And I've been literally transported to what I know now to be like the fourth dimension, which was this space where time did not exist. It was like now, future, and past was happening all at the same time. And I met a being, a female, beautiful being, which had bluish skin, um, cold, beautiful, like Scandinavian features, and she didn't say who she was. I just knew her like a spirit guide, and she said I came from a cold planet and it's time. And she gave me a set of instructions. We met in this interdimensional house that I created probably within my imagination. In a typical Polish welcome, I ran her a bath. I gave her
Oh,
bread and butter like my grandma, and I made her some hot chocolate, and we sat over. And she just said, "Look, this is what you need to do. Follow the grid of the earth, follow the blue light, and learn about sacred geometry." And I'm like, and also I was given a book about sacred geometry, which I later on found on Amazon with the exact what I've seen in this vision. I saw the exact same cover. And I didn't know much about the galactics there. I didn't know it was a being. But the sacred geometry uncovered what this being was, because I started reading this book, I think written by some German architect, about the sacred geometry. It was so thick, it was so full of mathematics and formulas. I was like, I don't understand a thing about it. It's just not my cup of tea. So I went to Gaia, Googled sacred geometry, and it brought up the series by Matthias De Stefano called Initiation, which was all about dimensions, and he mentioned galactic beings called the Arcturians who have blue skin. And I'm like, that was it. She was an Arcturian. and then
wow.
and then in the meantime, we've lost our business. Our whole empire collapsed. We literally didn't know what to do with ourselves. We went through like the dark night of the soul. My husband, who always was gifted as a psychic, but buried those gifts away for about 20 years, had an awakening where he connected to the Arcturians in a way where we followed the grid. We didn't know what the grid was, so we went, okay, what is the next spiritual place in Australia? We went to Uluru. And then the whole thing just kind of accelerated. He met the Arcturian Council of Elders in a vision. We started being trained by the Galactics, by Arcturians first. Then the Arcturians told us, go around, meet other galactic beings in your consciousness. So we started doing this quantum travels, the two of us. And every time Aaron was connecting to the beings, he would be getting visions, information about the civilization, and I would get a new language. I had this kind of gift of light language for 15 years, so way before this awakening. However, when this happened, I was having more and more and more of them. So this is where I am now in 2023, following my life's mission, and it was always like this kind of step after step, like the title of the podcast, where it's soul guided, spirit led.
Yes, they were spoon feeding you like bit by
Yes.
bit and expanding you. That sounds so fascinating. I really, really love that. And I know that you call yourself a galactic polyglot because you speak various light languages and you translate them, right? Like you can, and this is why this fascinates me, Ria, because I have met, and I work a little bit with light language, but I've met a couple of light language people, and I'm aware that some can translate and some are very, like, they know where the light language is coming from. But I guess the people that I have worked with closely, they just give you light language, they don't differentiate. So now, let me ask this way. You and I, we speak multiple languages, right? We're not just, I think, bilingual. It's like we speak a few languages. And so we know that takes a lot of years to learn a second language. How did you learn all these different light languages? Because I feel like my audience will really love how it works with light language as well,
Oh, I
right?
can explain all about it. Thankfully, light language you don't have to learn. I'm not just galactic polyglot. I also speak fluently, like at least three languages, and I'm learning the fourth one now, the human languages. And I know how much time it takes on Duolingo, listening to audiobooks, watching films. Thankfully, light language is totally different because you don't have to learn it. It activates. It's just like a spark. And there is light language is actually an umbrella term. It's like this big kind of broad term that encompasses many different phenomenons underneath. So one of the ways that light language can activate is by coming into contact with energy of different galactic beings, because our soul, which is now human, has not always been human. It's gone through many different experiences here on Earth and in other places in the galaxy. And when we come into contact with specific frequency, very often it's like memories awakening. It's a little bit like, let's say you've had some memory from childhood. I don't know, maybe your grandmother used to bake a cake that you really liked, or maybe there was some candles that you used to light in Christmas, or whatever, something like that. And then you may be in a crowd of people and you smell that smell, and all these memories start flooding back. It's exactly the same with light language. So when I started connecting with those different galactic beings, what was happening was like the memory started flooding back. And this is exactly the same thing that I do when I activate this ability in other people. I just bring the energy, they connect to it, and then the memories awaken. So light language is not like a human language. Some of the light languages sound very similar to human languages. I can give some examples in a second,
Yes.
but others don't. So this is where it gets really interesting, because people who activate certain light languages, which sound very much like human like languages, they kind of like, okay, this is light language, but some others activate something that sounds nothing like human. It's just some weird sounds, And they sometimes go into a shock mode because sometimes light languages activate spontaneously. I mostly work with people where they want to have it activated, I do it for them, and it's in a safe environment, but very often it happens spontaneously when we awakening. And then people don't know what they channel. So this is exactly why I'm here. I've created like a free resource as well called Light Language Library, where I recorded lots of samples of those different languages for people to find out what they actually channel. And I not just recorded my own samples, but samples of the same languages from my students. Because what I've noticed, the more I worked, and I've worked really intensely over the last 3 years, not just with my own languages, but also with other people's, is that they follow patterns. So two Arcturians will always sound similar. It will form a pattern. Arcturian sounds like Arabic. When you've got Lyran felines, they will sound similar. So it's not like everybody's got their own distinct language, nothing like the other people. No, they follow patterns. However, with that being said, there's another phenomenon which also goes under the light language umbrella, which is the language of your soul. And that is the pure expression of your voice and your soul, and that everybody has their own. So this is why we've got ability to activate not just one or multiple light language.
Fascinating. So could you share with us those examples that you mentioned?
Yeah, of course. So Arcturian language, and Arcturians are the beings. This is my soul family. This is my who I came from. Like that was my last galactic lifetime because before this lifetime is here on Earth. They are these bluish beings, very very beautiful, very delicate features, very advanced technology, and their language sounds like Arabic. So let me give you a sample, but still sounds human. So Temahedera haturuhlevia mahare anahteru ukutiha mea hatea kuruhumea eteshuhumea kara ea ham enahterahi halabarehi tuhuturema ehia hasam erachtui kiamu sumahest ardahatia suru hatiachas. It's a little activation actually, as I was speaking, because I translate. Sometimes it was like a heart and throat and third eye activation, the upper chakras.
That sounded amazing. And this is what I love about light language, or when I explain a little bit about light language, is that you don't sit there and think, what do I say next, right? Even when you are learning a human language, there's often that sort of moment, right, where you gotta like, because your mind is set to your language and now you're trying to convert it to that one. So there's that moment where you have to think what to say, whereas light language just flows. And you just gave us this beautiful example that just on the spot you
Yeah.
started channeling it. That
Yeah,
sounds
because basically how I define light language is energy channeled in the form of sound. So it
yes.
does sound to us like a language. Sometimes it can sound like a song. And what it actually is just us expressing energy, just in a very tangible form. Some people draw light language, so some people draw like beautiful drawings, but it's very similar to music and art. I would put it in the same category, only it has also frequency, which can be very therapeutic to us. And it can also be used with intention for very practical, like practical uses. Because that was my question for 15 years. I had this ability. It activated when I was in my early 20s. I'm now in my mid 30s, approaching 40, and I've had that since my early 20s, so it's more than 15 years now. And I was asking myself this question, like, what's the use of that? Like, I've got this weird thing, and what am I doing with it? Am I praying, raising my vibration? But actually, this frequency can do so much. It can heal, it can code. You can tap into the collective consciousness of those very advanced non-physical beings and transmit certain like essence so that we can maybe move to abundance or creativity or whatever it is. So it really helps us also to attune our body, attune our soul, connect to our spirit guides. Because, for example, some people are very visual and can see things in the third eye. Some people perhaps not, but light language is very tangible. So if you are like doubting yourself, uh, am I seeing things right? Are they really saying this? Light language is like it just comes out of your mouth and you don't doubt it.
You don't
It
have
is,
time because it's so
although
fast.
say that I say like you don't doubt, but I get so many students coming to me saying, "Is this really light language? Am I making this up?" So people are kind of anything non-physical, anything woo. We do doubt ourselves because that's how we've been conditioned. But I feel like light language is very solid in a way where it's like it's actually makes it out to that physical reality in the form of sound.
And I think your resource of all the different samples is going to be so helpful. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check whether we can maybe link up to
Yes.
that resource, so that
Yeah, it's
anyone
called
who's interested can. Oh, sorry, who's interested
Yeah,
can go
it's
and
called
find.
light language. It's called light language library. So even if you just Google light language library, it should be somewhere on the first page. Because yeah, and it's gonna be updated very soon because guess what? New light language is activating in me. New light language is activating my students. So we adding more.
Oh, fantastic! Because I just I know that there's going to be a lot of my listeners who will be so fascinated with it. Perhaps they have channeled something and didn't think it was anything or what to do with it, or you don't even understand what it is. I like to think of a light language as sort of like an abstract painting. Like you don't stand in front of an abstract painting like, is that a house? Is that a flower? What are they trying to say here? You just appreciate the whole picture, or you don't get it, right? And I feel like with light language, it's not for a human mind to go like, what is she saying? What is this something? Is this sound? But it's rather like you close your eyes and you just receive it, right?
Yeah,
And allow it to integrate, where it
yeah,
needs to integrate.
that's a great metaphor. That really explains what it's like. Although I must say one thing regarding understanding. Yes, 9 times out of 10, it is like an abstract painting where you interpret it rather than read it word by word. However, as I've been training practitioners on light language, one of the exercises we do is exercises to understanding, and I have seen glimpses of word for word understanding, where there was very precise meaning being conveyed. I remember once speaking Lemurian, and I was speaking about a surfboard. Like, surfboard is quite quite a concrete stuff. And people picked up on that meaning. My students were like, okay, what translate now? Okay, you talk about surfboard, about surfing. I mean, it's not like we come here in love and light. No, it's kind of like a concrete thing. Once again, I was channeling Andromedan in a similar exercise, and they were talking about climbing trees because they live on trees. And again, people picked up on climbing trees, the feeling of going up. So 9 times out of 10, it is an abstract painting. However, I feel like as we grow in understanding, grow to distinguish those frequencies with more precision, we will be able to understand more than just the abstract.
So let's throw a curveball to my audience, Riya. Would you say, because if I'm understanding this correctly, as a beginner, if we're just learning about light language, like we're just new to light language, it's better to just receive it and not try to get word for word or understand, because my understanding of light language is also that sometimes we don't have the human words to express something. Now you were talking about very specific examples like climbing trees or the surfboard, for purpose of those exercises. But would you say that as a newbie we should familiarize ourselves with it as a whole, and then if we choose to go and specialize in it, like you teach those practitioners where they want to be able to understand what they're channeling, that then it's a matter of finding a great teacher like yourself who can then teach you how to interpret it, because I feel like it's not the way we interpret word for word, again, a painting or something. Would you say that I'm on the right
Yeah,
track here?
I reckon, yeah. You know what? I like to approach all of this with a frequency of like play and fun. So, it's like maybe not everybody will come and become a professional football player, but anybody can kick a ball, right? And have fun with it. So, whenever I teach practitioners, but I also teach everyday people. First thing I do is just to activate them. So I am not a fan of something like you have to attain, because I've had people come to me who've been through different courses and they were like, you have to open to fourth direction and pray to the ancestors and do this and light a candle and then maybe your light language will activate. It's like, no, anybody's got that ability. It's already in you. I'm just coaxing it out. So let's just do it on day one. And that's what I do on day one of my light language course. Let's just activate it. And now you play with it and just have fun. And I always say, just let it flow. And you will never be able to understand it when you just like working with this conscious mind, you're trying to catch the words, and then you start doubting yourself because you start repeating certain
Yes.
things. Very often, when it activates, you keep repeating the same phrase. Sometimes you have a whole fluency. It's like a bit like that. But then, if you really want to, then I think the most important thing is if you want to use it more like a tool rather than a toy, because you
Mm.
can use it as a toy, you can use it as a tool. So if you want to use it as a toy, go play with it. If you want to use it as a tool for healing, for activating, for communication with the galactic beings, then you need to learn maybe a bit more precision. Okay, so which language will be more conductive to specific frequencies? Because like some of them are more healing for the physical body, some of them for hold the frequency of abundance, some of them can melt through karmic bonds. So if you learn about which frequency and what beings these languages belong to, then you can get more precision, you can do stuff which is very, very specialized, but it shouldn't stop you from playing. So wherever you want to find yourself on it, even you just speaking it, and you don't have to do a special ceremony. You can do it when you're on a walk, when you kind of in a shower. That raises your frequency and vibration. It can also help you with minor ailments. Very often when I'm feeling myself coming down with some cold or flu, I flush it out with my light language. I just raise my vibration, so I create the environment in my body where no virus or bacteria sticks. So play with it, discover it, like a new toy.
I love it. And I love how you say it, choose whether you want to use it as a toy or as a tool, because it just, when you said that, it just sort of reminded me of how like we're all born psychic. It's just a matter of whether it's nurtured and you're here to be a spiritual person, light worker, healer, psychic, tarot reader, whatever it is, quantum healer, or whether you're here to do a job of a lawyer, a teacher, a nurse, but have these abilities. And I think the way you described it is also can be applied to that, right? Because it's like we're all born with these beautiful gifts and abilities which are just who we are, right? Like this is who we are on a soul level. These are our normal abilities, and it's just a matter of whether you choose to use them as a toy or as a tool. So I really love that. And it sounds like there's so many ways that you can work with light language and going to like have almost so many different specializations with light language. But can you just maybe tell us, when it comes to connecting to those higher beings, which you mentioned, you can tap into their consciousness. So just for my listeners, how is that, if they wanted to try, like, is that a part of a meditation? Do we leave our body? Because sometimes there's that belief that we leave our body, and we might not come back. Like, can you explain us a little bit more about that? Like, how do we tap into their consciousness?
Okay, so I never leave my body. I love my body and I'm firmly in my body. My consciousness is right here. So I experience those higher dimensions somewhere, sometimes in like a space in between where they meet me halfway, or sometimes downright they come through me and through my body. And this is my way. My husband, who's also a psychic and mentor to different starseeds, his consciousness travels out of his body. I mean, he's still in the body talking here, but his point of attention moves. And this is as simple as it is. I think when we start talking about these long words like elevate your consciousness and ascension and all of that, we can kind of like, well, what does that mean? It's as simple as moving your point of attention. So, like, simple psychic exercise would be, okay, can you imagine now going to your bathroom and picking up your toothbrush? And you will imagine it. Those of you who are visual will imagine it in a visual way, others maybe in a non-visual way, but in a way you will move your consciousness. You will not be here, you'll be in your bathroom picking up that toothbrush. And it's no different. It's just the destination, instead of being toothbrush and bathroom, will be Arcturus and codes of abundance or something like that. So you just move with the power of your intention, but you stay here in your body, and you can do it in many different ways. But the biggest thing is I think it's the fear, and it's also knowing the destination. What happened to me is that they first reached out to me, but you don't have to be chosen or contacted, because they're open to communication. They want to help us out. They know how tough life on this planet and this third density is, so they're really keen to help. So of course you have to be careful, because just as there are beautiful non-physical beings of positive polarity, there's also beings of negative polarity. And I think the key is to know who you're connecting with. And this is why I've prepared that light language library, so people know what frequencies are what, and they eliminate fear. And once they start familiarizing themselves with frequencies, then it becomes fun, it becomes safe. I think most of the time when people don't connect, it's because of fear. Like you say, do I leave my body? What will happen? Can I come back? Will I be kidnapped? No, it's okay. You can't get lost in the quantum field. Your body will kind of call you back.
That's how I feel as well. I love that you said that though. Coming from you, that we share these similar experiences, is I think it's quite beneficial to hear someone else say it, because I don't believe as well that we leave a body and then there's like you're lost in space, literally looking for your body. But I know that fear can be real, just like when we first open up to spirit, and we have been conditioned not to do that. Don't open yourself up, because you never know what you attract. And I really truly believe that if you are going in with the intention of connecting to beings of love and light, and you hold your vibration high, that's what you will be connecting with. There's no fear. I think there's more fear of having your energy zapped in this world by other humans, intentionally and unintentionally. Riya, I have so many questions, but I want to ask you, because I've heard some galactic channelers call or say that they work with reptilians and more the negative energies, or not work with them as in like they're supporting them, but they are contacted or they can get information. Do you do that sort of work as well? Do you work with those energies, beings as well?
No, I choose not to. Doesn't mean that they didn't want to come through. I've got an ability. If I wanted to speak reptilian, I know this language is active, because, again, our soul goes through many different experiences, and one of them was also reptilian in my case. I was an Arcturian, I was a Pleiadian, I was a Lyran. I had a lifetime as a reptilian. Do I want to connect with this frequency? Oh, hell no. I have had my experience with reptilians, and the frequency is like drug. There's always a hook attached, and you want more and more and more, and it's not clean. Then there's other negative races like draconians. For example, when I started connecting and channeling Arcturians, Lyrans, Pleiadians, all these beautiful beings, One day, and that was a couple of years ago, I still lived in Australia. I remember in my kitchen, draconians came through, and they had this bullying frequency. They're like, you know what's going to happen on Earth? You know there's going to be that transition, and we were still in, lockdowns and stuff at that stage. And it's like, we can help you navigate that transition. It was like a mafia proposal that you can't refuse. We protect you, but you become our channel. You become our ambassador, like you do that with other races. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Do I say yes or no? And I said no, but I never channeled them. But any channel is exactly like a radio station. You can tune it to the station Arcturus or tune it to the station Draco, whatever you want to. But you have to remember you sovereign, and it's a little bit like, not answering unknown phone calls or not giving your email to strangers, or when someone knocks your door, you've got a choice. You can either open it or smash it in their face and say no, you're not
Yeah,
entering.
that's right. Free will is respected. I say this all the time. Free will is respected everywhere, but actually here, again, you're more likely to have your free will taken away here
Yeah.
on Earth than spirit in the ether there. But I actually am so when you said they came to you. Now, and they were speaking in a, like you described, mafia sort of style way. But if someone is now just started light language and like something like this was to happen, how would they know? Like what are the signs? How would they know? Let's say they're not even familiar with this race, with the stars
Mhm.
group. How would they no, not to say, okay, I'll help you because because they might think they're coming with good intentions, right? Unless anything
Yeah.
negative was spoken.
We had that experience once with like a guy who was quite like a newly awakened consciousness, and he thought he was connecting to Alpha Centauri, which are a very beautiful race, and they told him to perform all these weird rituals and stuff like that. First of all, the positive races are very unlikely to come uninvited apart from this first initial contact. So sometimes they will do something like that dream, but it was almost like I was calling this in. I was kind of like, I was opened up. I was like, I want to connect with my spirit guides, and Actuarians came. It's very unlikely this thing will happen. And like you rightly said, I would not be afraid so much of all these kind of negative entities. I'll be more afraid of humans. I have dealt with victims of spiritual attacks. I have had psychic attacks on me, and they 99% or maybe 97% come from humans. So I would say don't be afraid. Exercise common sense. That's another thing, is common sense. You can, if you don't like something, if you don't feel like, your body will also send you signals. So for me, the signal when the draconians came, it was the frequency of aggression and fear, and I wasn't feeling good. And straight away, this was off. If something is off, you will know. The good, positive, beautiful, benevolent beings will never make you scared. They will never make you feel unworthy. They will never make you feel like you're under control. They will actually lead you back to your own sovereignty. As you say, free will above everything. So, whatever you're doing, also do not ever feel like, those beings are in higher dimensions or we are in lower, they're in the fifth and we're in the third. Just remember who you are, remember your power, because that's exactly what you need to be. It's all about your sovereignty. And if you're not feeling confident, or if you feel scared connecting to perhaps galactic beings, why don't you start with connecting with your own higher self, which is a completely safe connection? That's what I would say.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing these tips. That's exactly what I was hoping you could share with us, is what to look for, right? Like how does it feel and how we can protect ourselves. So Ria, how do you work with light language? Like, what do you do
Mhm.
with light language? If you can share that with us.
So my mission is activating. So I'm
Yes.
like my mission is to be a catalyst. So I use these frequencies like to stir something up in people. Usually in the context of the soul mission, I also work a lot with businesses and conscious entrepreneurs. So I use this to um, you know, build them up, help them build a sustainable business which is soul aligned. So I use this in this context, but I activate people who are healers and who work with physical body with this light language. There are other people who will just do light language sessions where they just kind of code people with this frequency. For me, it's all about activating. I'm just like this kind of like little revolutionaries. Come on, new earth, jump on the train, wake up. Here are your memories. Come
Well,
on.
you picked a good lifetime because I feel like we're ready for you now. I feel like in
Yeah.
previous lifetimes, maybe, if you were trying, it didn't go so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that unfortunately does happen. And I've had students who had to clear ancestral trauma where, the great grandma activated light languages, but ended up in the mental institution back, in the day, or probably even earlier, we would have been, persecuted and killed for our gifts. But thankfully, we're in good times now where and we're moving to an even better time where all of
Mm,
this which we are keeping a little bit under closet, I'm finding that very often there's a lot of undercover light workers,
so
like people who totally and maybe one of our listeners or two or three are like that, where they totally get this metaphysical world but they don't speak about it openly because they still feel like the time isn't right. What will my family think? What will my friends think? What will my colleagues at work think? I reckon we've gone a long way and we're moving even faster, even further because, even 20 years ago, even yoga was weird. Meditation was definitely weird 20 years ago. And now, mainstream, there's mindfulness
mainstream.
apps, corporations have mindfulness programs. We are going a long way, and light language and all that stuff will also become quite normal soon.
It is, and I know, like I've experienced the power of it, and know how powerful it can be, and in even in sessions where it does come through, I know everyone is feeling it. It's actually really interesting because whenever I do Reiki on, like I just do Reiki in person, usually on my husband or some friends. And I like to test sometimes between the friends who aren't really spiritual, but they're being nice. I'm like, all right, you can do Reiki on me. Um, and my husband, who's completely aware, knows like, like what happens and is open. And every now and then when I call in the Acturians to come in that moment, I can feel the energy, but it's funny for me when the person will say, oh, I felt something pull, I felt like this hit, or I thought you were still here, but you're somewhere there already, or you finished, right? And so I like to play with that. And I love that, even people who aren't aware of, feeling this feel something, like they feel
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. I remember this doing this 60-second TikTok like a couple of years ago, which was Pleiadian light language, and it was just to raise your vibration. And someone commented, "Oh my God, this cured my hangover."
Ah, isn't that
So
fantastic? And you just, yeah, all these beautiful, you know, side bonuses that happen. Ria, is there anything that you've shared so much with us, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I asked?
good question. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I don't think I need to be asked something, but if I can share something
Yes,
for the
please.
listeners, I would love to share a little message, which is a message of courage and of actually allowing yourself to be who you truly are. And I'm calling you in right now. You may hear my voice, maybe you're watching it, maybe you're listening. There's frequency in it. And if you have departed from who you truly are, your real energetic blueprint, the actual essence of you, it's time to go back home now to your essence, to who you are. So, forgetting the expectations, the burdens, everything that's been kind of imposed on you, we're coming to the time of liberation where this weirdness, this stuff that perhaps you may be ashamed of, this will no longer be weird. So you are a bit of ahead of the global awakening curve, but right now it's time to go back home. It's time to allow yourself to be who you came here to be. So that's the message. Channeled from
That's
me,
so
not from any being.
beautiful. That is beautiful. I love that so much. And thank you for sharing this with us. And I always say, when you hear the truth, because it moves you, it moves something within you. It speaks to your soul, not just, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? And this was so beautiful. Riya, before I let you go, I just wanted to ask you one more thing, because I know Mintakans are very dear to me, as are Acturians actually, but I know that I have had my soul family is Mintakian, and I always um, love connecting with the Mintakian energies, but unlike you, I don't usually distinguish completely aware, like, what is what. So I was wondering whether you would mind channeling a little bit of Mintakian for us.
Yes, absolutely. Mintaka or Orions, sometimes they called, their language is actually one of them that if it activates in you, you probably doubt if it's a language because it sounds very, very strange. And I've had a lot of Mintakan seeds that are like doubting themselves. So maybe there's someone else who listens to it. The language sounds crazy. It's the fastest light language I speak. It doesn't sound anything like human. So prepare yourself for this outburst. But what this language does and what they are great at, they're masters of DNA. They can really almost like make everything inside of you think. So this is a very therapeutic on a physical level frequency. So I'm going to share it with you. And that's a language I couldn't translate what I'm speaking because it just goes like a lightning. So get
Okay.
ready. Here comes the
Okay.
Mintakan. I always get out of breath with this. It
Thank you.
basically is breathe in and then it comes.
That is incredible. And you're right. Now, hearing this, I'm like, okay, I've heard it before, right? But I always kind of thought, there's this particular light language that sounds a little bit Hawaiian. And whenever I hear this, it's like, not Hawaiian.
Lemurian?
It connects me to Hawaii for
Okay.
some reason. I
Okay,
should
I'll,
say.
I'll, I'll, I'll give you that, and it's probably going to be this. It's going to be Lemurian, and I think the listeners
Oh, that's what it is.
will hear the differences between different light languages. So this is the super fast Orion. Lemurian is the slowest, gentlest one ever. So maybe that's that. Kimana kamena konomona enamase kiamona atekiama atekiama. Ianema kuti kimaniku iamane enasuti amane. Iasuti amane ikamuna atayase kiama. Iamuna kaseia atamea kuamane. Kuamane yatakesi kumana kia tu sumea atamane. Atamane, atamane, kata.
So beautiful. Yes, that is it. That is it. And I don't know why I call it Hawaiian language, because it always takes me to like this ritual somewhere in Hawaii, volcanoes and like underground. It's just so beautiful. Or even just standing on a mountain, like Mount Shasta. Shasta? Yes, Mount Shasta. It just reminds me of that, and that is that. But the Mintakian, when I heard it, and now thanks to you, I know that's Mintakian, is always home.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the thing. If you hear any of the light languages, and it's not just the physical sensation, but there's a bit of like a nostalgia, a
Mm.
bit of affinity, that's probably you spoke that language before. It's familiar frequency. So yeah, if you any of you guys maybe come through my light language library and any of the samples are like that,
That
then
resonates. There's
you
that resonance.
probably a star seed from that, or you had a lifetime there.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for being so generous and sharing that, and especially, gosh, the Mintakian language, because that is something that, like, you would think, God, that would take skills to learn, right? But like you said, you're channeling it, so it's coming. How can you doubt it? I think if you can do that as a newbie, right, channel Mintakians, that's like that's like the seal of validation. You're doing it because it just sounds so intricate. Ria, where can my listeners find you? Because I have a feeling after this, everyone's going to want to tap into light language through you.
Yeah, so we'll link to it on my link tree. There's all of my places, all of my social media channels, but the easiest place is rialoveguard.com, my website. So we'll link to it, and that's probably going to be
Beautiful.
the
We will
way that they can
definitely.
find it.
Yes. So whether you're watching this or listening to this, the links will be just below, so you can connect with Maria. And I am so delighted, so grateful that you are here, sharing your time, because you have evening, afternoon, 5 p.m.
Yeah, yeah, like late afternoon, early evening. The sun's just setting here in Costa Rica, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope we get to connect again, and all the best, and to Aaron as well. And thank you. And everyone, thank you for being here. And I'll be in your ears next week. Bye for now.